Jamie Cosgrove for the town of Branford. As we all know, Branford is one of the worst hit towns in the state. We had significant tree damage and poles damaged, wires down throughout pretty much every area of town. Obviously, some areas hit harder than others. We started immediately yesterday afternoon doing storm assessment and throughout the night. Obviously, with the number of roads that were down, the assessment is carrying out through today. However, restoration has taken place. At the peak of it, I think we're down over 99% of customers were without power here in Branford. We are currently at about 55% without power, so restoration is occurring as we continue to open up roads. I just remind everybody from the public, please be safe out there. There's still a lot of wires down. Make safe crews are still in the area going out there. We just had a briefing, myself, Governor Lamont, with Representative Comey, Representative Scanlon, and President of Operations for Eversource, Craig Hellstrom. With that, I will now turn it over to the Governor. Senator Blumenthal.
Well, as they sometimes say in Washington, we just had a good meeting with Eversource, frank and honest discussion about what's going on. The good news is that you had 98%. You were hit harder than any other community in this state. And unlike Isaias, which was much more broad-based, this was much narrower, concentrated on a half dozen towns, and Branford was hit really hard. That said, not most, but 6,000 or 7,000 have come back on now. 9,000 are still without power. And if you're one of the 9,000 still without power, none of this is acceptable. I think one of the big differences now compared to 3 weeks ago is because of the narrower scope of the damage. It's still incredibly intense damage. And I was, just down the street a few minutes ago, and they were talking about not just trees breaking over, but also telephone poles being lifted off and snapped. It just gives you an idea of the force of the winds that hit us really hard. So that said, look, I think Eversource has said everywhere, sadly, but Branford, 99% will be turned on by the end of today, and we're putting the pedal to the metal when it comes to what we got to do here in Branford as well. I'd ask you a couple of things. One, unlike last time, I don't think this is necessarily a manpower issue. Given the narrower scope of what we got to do, it's the intensity of the issue, the bringing in the folks. We just had an emergency declaration so that we can get more folks in from out of state immediately as necessary. We brought the National Guard in place, and we've got our public safety folks in place, other public works departments. Everybody is getting to the ground, making sure, first of all, make safe, we get these roads reopened again, and working to get each and every one of you with your service turned on. It was just a little bit ironic, I think, that the legislature, John Robert, was just in the middle of having a legislative hearing on our response to the last tropical storm. When this one hit, we had to interrupt that legislative hearing. One last message. We'll have plenty of time to do a debrief on what went right, what went wrong, and how we change regulation going forward. But I would urge you, these folks are working their heart out, climbing poles in really tough situations. I give them a little distance. We're in the middle of COVID. I would definitely show some respect and thanks for what the frontline people are doing every day. And then we'll have plenty of time to see how we can make sure that this is becoming an increasingly frequent event. My God, we had tornadoes 3 weeks ago. Now we have them again. What's going on? We're going to be better and better prepared for a faster response. And I'd like to think that most of you will be on, almost all of you, by the end of today, and certainly by the end of tomorrow. Here, I made promises for you, Craig. Over to you.
Go ahead.
I got mine this morning.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you all for being here again. I've been going around with the governor again today, as I did after the last storm, and I just want to, first of all, thank the governor. He has been out there listening. We were in North Haven earlier today, and in the last storm like today, he was out there really. I'm going to be going from here Haven and then to Hamden. Let me just first say a word of thanks, as the governor did, to the folks who were out there doing the actual work, the linesmen, the crews who are giving it their all as they do every storm, but also to our National Guard who watch them at work. They are unparalleled in their dedication. And of course to the first responders, the police and fire. I've been hearing from Sean and others about how the fire service responded. And I know that they've had a long night. The governor's right. We had a frank and honest discussion. And I'm just going to be frank and blunt here. I'm going to be watching how well Eversource performs here in Branford over the next 24 hours. Whether they, in fact, have power back for the people of Branford and those other communities where it's out. What I heard, and maybe Craig can explain it, is that the vast majority of their crews, they have 380 now in Connecticut, only 80 of them are here in Branford. I want to know how they're going to restore the power here in the next 24 hours without those crews being here. But I am going to be watching, the people of Connecticut are going to be watching, and most important, the people of Branford and Connecticut deserve better. They deserve better than we saw in this last storm. And they also deserve refund. Again today, as the CEO did yesterday, Eversource refused to make refunds voluntarily. I am going to be going to PURA, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority. I am going to be urging, in fact demanding, that refunds be made, that there be no reimbursements to the company for the cost of restoring power, and more broadly, structural reforms like tying their profits to their performance, how well they do, whether they deliver and repair wires that are down. And what we may well need is a smarter, smaller, more responsive utility than Eversource. We just came from another town that's served by another utility, North Haven, served by United Illuminate. Maybe smaller and more responsive and smarter is better. So we need to make that broader assessment. Right now, the challenge is getting the lights back on. And I will be watching to see whether Eversource does better this time around than they did last time. I hope they will. I hope they will take some lessons from the last experience. But the people of Connecticut deserve better. And the unresponsive and unrepentant performance yesterday by the CEO of this company, I think, leaves some real questions to be answered. And now,